The sun climbs over the arid plains of modern-day Pakistan, pulling long, jagged shadows across the crumbling brick mounds of Mohenjo-Daro. To the casual observer, these are merely heaps of earth and baked clay. But wait, look closer at the way the light hits the ridges. 4,000 years ago, this was not a ruin. It was a pulsating heart of human innovation. While the pharaohs of Egypt were stacking limestone to reach the heavens, the people of the Indus Valley were perfecting the art of living on the ground. They did not build for the glory of kings or the vanity of monuments. They built for the efficiency of the collective. The air here once hummed with the sound of trade and the movement of thousands. Every brick laid in these foundations served a purpose, part of a grand, deliberate design that prioritized the daily life of the citizen over the legacy of a ruler. The dust settling on these mounds today hides a secret. This was a society that mastered the environment long before the rest of the world caught up. This was not a place of conquest, but a blueprint for urban life. Walk through the main thoroughfare of Harappa. The streets are not winding alleys or chaotic paths. They are a precise north-south grid, laid out with a mathematical rigor that defies the era. Every intersection meets at a perfect right angle. Now, look down at the bricks themselves. Pick one up from the smallest home, then compare it to one from the largest public structure. They are identical. Every single brick shares the exact same ratio, 1 to 2 to 4. This was not a coincidence. It was a mandate. Imagine the logistics required to maintain this level of uniformity across an entire city. From the foundations of a granary to the walls of a private residence, this was a blueprint for urban life that would not be seen again for millennia. There is no evidence of individual ego here. The grid dictated the flow of life. It was a rigid, logical framework. This was the first true master-planned city in human history. Step inside a residential dwelling. The walls are thick, baked brick, but the true innovation lies beneath the floorboards. You find a private bathroom, a feature completely unheard of in the contemporary ancient world. While other empires relied on open pits or public waste, the people of the Indus Valley engineered a closed system. Water flows from a central well, channeled through terracotta pipes embedded directly into the walls. Gravity does the work, pulling water through the structure and out into the street. Follow the flow. It empties to a covered drain that runs parallel to the grid. These are not mere gutters. They are engineering marvels. Each section is equipped with removable stone covers, acting as manholes for maintenance crews to clear blockages. This was not just architecture. It was public health, perfected. By keeping the streets free of refuse, they prevented diseases. Shift your focus from the quiet of the home to the noise of the market. Here, the order of the city translates into the precision of commerce. A merchant sits on a woven mat, his hands moving with practiced speed. He holds a small square block of white steatite. He presses the face of this seal into a lump of wet clay. The impression is sharp, immediate. It leaves behind the image of a single-horned creature and a series of mysterious, undeciphered glyphs. This is more than a signature. It is a passport. These identical seals have been unearthed in the distant, sun-baked ruins of Mesopotamia, thousands of miles from the Indus Plains. To move goods across such a distance, the people of the Indus Valley had to master the sea. They built ships capable of navigating the Arabian Sea, turning the ocean into a highway for copper, ivory, and precious stones. They were not isolated dwellers of a river valley. They were the central nodes of a vast, interconnected network. Every seal found in a foreign ruin is a piece of evidence, a physical anchor proving that these people were master mariners. The market was the engine, and the seal was the key that unlocked the world. Now, scan the archaeological record for the markers that define every other ancient power. Search the mounds of Mohenjo-Daro for the golden tombs of emperors. Look for the grand, towering palaces designed to intimidate the common citizen. Scour the layers of silt for stockpiles of bronze weaponry, or depictions of conquered slaves chained to the wheels of a chariot. You will find none. There are no walls built to repel invaders. no fortifications guarding a king, and no art celebrating the triumph of one man over another. This silence in the record is deafening. In Egypt, the landscape is scarred by the ego of pharaohs. In Mesopotamia, the earth is littered with the tools of conquest. Here, the bricks tell a different story. The absence of these monuments is not a failure of history. It is the primary evidence of their philosophy. They did not build for the glory of a single ruler. They built for the efficiency of the collective. Every street, every drain, and every home reflects a society that prioritized the public good over the concentration of power. They functioned without the whip of a tyrant or the shadow of a master. It was a civilization defined by cooperation, a rare, stable experiment, where the architecture itself served as the only authority. Even the most precise systems are vulnerable to the indifference of the earth. By 1900 BC, the environment that sustained these cities began to fracture. The monsoon winds, which for centuries brought reliable rains to the Indus Basin, started to falter. They shifted their path, leaving the plains beneath a relentless, cloudless sky. The rivers, the lifeblood of every street and drain in Harappa, began to shrink. Their channels grew shallow, choked by the very silt they once carried. Watch the water levels drop. The central wells, once overflowing with clean, cool water, now hit bottom. The terracotta pipes that threaded through the city walls fell silent. Where once there was the constant rhythmic flow of waste and water, there was now only the dry scrape of dust against brick. The landscape itself was turning against the grid. The heat intensified, baking the mud brick foundations until they cracked under the strain. There was no sudden catastrophe, no earthquake to shatter the walls, and no fire to consume the homes. Instead, there was a slow, creeping dryness. The water was receding, retreating from the wells and the canals, leaving the people to face a future where the logic of their urban design could no longer hold back the encroaching desert. The stability of 4 millennia was beginning to dissolve into the dust. There was no final battle. No enemy breached the gates, and no fire consumed the granaries. The city did not fall to the sword. It surrendered to the horizon. Inside the residential blocks, the silence grew heavy. A merchant gathered his stone seals, wrapping them in a piece of woven fiber. He did not look back. He simply stepped out of his home and joined the line of people moving toward the rising sun. Families carried only what they could hold: ceramic pots, bronze tools, and the weight of their history. The city remained intact, a perfectly engineered shell, now devoid of its pulse. Thousands moved in a steady, rhythmic procession, following the path of the receding water eastward. The great experiment of the Indus was ending, not with a scream, but with a long, steady walk into the unknown. For 4,000 years, the earth kept its secret. The silt layered over the streets, the wind smoothed the mounds, and the sun baked the ruins into the very fabric of the plains. Time turned the grid into a series of nondescript hills. Then, in the 1920s, the silence broke. A railway construction crew arrived, tasked with laying iron tracks across the landscape. They needed ballast, and they found it in the mounds. A worker swung a heavy iron tool, expecting common stone, but the ground resisted with a different density. He pulled back a chunk of earth and revealed a perfectly fired, red-baked brick. It was not a natural formation. It was a fragment of a lost world. The crew dug deeper, clearing away the debris of centuries. They uncovered straight lines of masonry, the remnants of walls that had once stood as the heartbeat of a civilization. Each strike of the pickaxe shattered the long, dark slumber of Harappa. The history of the Indus was no longer a ghost. It was a physical reality. Today, the sun dips low over the Indus River, casting long amber light across the brick mounds of Mohenjo-Daro. The excavation sites are quiet now, stripped of the machinery that first broke their slumber. You can walk the grid of these streets and feel the precision of a society that prioritized the public good over the vanity of rulers. Yet, a fundamental barrier remains. The Indus script, carved into thousands of steatite seals, stays locked behind a wall of silence. We can read the architecture, the drainage, and the standardized bricks, but we cannot hear the voices of the people who built them. They left no epic poems, no lists of conquered kings, and no monuments to their own egos. They left only the evidence of a system that worked. As the shadows stretch across the plains, the absence of these grand markers becomes the most powerful statement of all. We are forced to confront a different definition of success. Greatness did not require a towering statue or a golden tomb. It was built into the very pipes that carried clean water and the streets that kept the city moving. The civilization faded into the silt, but the logic of their design persists as a blueprint for human cooperation. We look at these ruins and realize that the most enduring legacy is not what we leave behind to be worshipped, but the systems we create to ensure that life functions for everyone.